So let's do some detective work, as this season we're going to be getting a new Grandmaster or a reprised Grandmaster Nightfall in the form of Inverted Spire. Inverted Spire, if you didn't know, got a rework. This video is going to go behind the curtain on things that I do in advance to find stuff out before something launches. This is a good way of doing that because obviously Inverted Spire got a rework. I have never played the strike until today because it never appears in the strike playlist for whatever reason, I don't know. So let's investigate on what they've done to my baby Inverted Spire, which is one of my favourite strikes in the game because it was the first strike created, I believe, for Destiny 2. It was the Destiny 2 beta strike in 2017. So now we are presented with a totally different mechanic to what usually would be happening. We'd be all the way to the left hand side fighting Cabal and Vex. This time we're only fighting Vex, which in actual fact is against us as a player. More on that in a minute. So we're presented with these boxes that we've got to shoot. All of a sudden the Inverted Spire feels like Garden of Salvation right now. Platforms forming. So imagine yourself right now that we are on the Grandmaster version. Where would we stand to survive? I know that I'm only doing this on the base version of the strike, but let's imagine for 1 second it isn't. Where would you stand for safety? Boom. Exhibit A, right here, look. So there's no turn back zone, because that's what the goal was to do there. Can we fight from range? Is the turn back zones? No, there isn't. Right. That means this bit's gonna be easy then, because we can do damage from a range. And let's look at the triggers. So the trigger is we need to kill the key targets. There are 2 key targets, I believe. 2 Hydras in this case. Bear in mind on Grandmaster difficulty, these Minotaurs, the red bars, will probably be Overlord Minotaurs. Just let that sink in a minute. The orange bars are gonna probably be Overlord. So I'm gonna give you some guessing, some educated guessing, and say that there's probably 2 Overlord champions in this section, sorry. Right? 2 to 4. I wouldn't think 4. It would be overkill if there's 4 Overlords here. Right? So remember, we're doing detective work on the normal variant of Inverted Spire to see and give some educated guesses on what the Grandmaster variant's gonna be like. So this bit's gonna be not a problem because I've just discovered to you, I've just showed you there's no turn back zone, which means we can pick away enemies with scout rifles, wish ender, any long range weapons that you can think of, we can do that. So there's no danger there with the first section, right? So that's encounter 1 down. They've basically made Inverted Spire a long Vex battleground. That's essentially what it is. And we'll see if I'm a fan of it or not when it comes round as a Grandmaster. I can't answer it yet because the Grandmaster's not up. To be honest with you, I think this should have been the first Grandmaster of the season, not Lightblade. We've already seen Lightblade. We want to see the new stuff. And you're going to have to wait a couple of weeks for Inverted Spire to be the Grandmaster. And the Conqueror node doesn't come out. Well, I don't know when it comes out. Maybe someone down below can tell us when does the Conqueror node come out. Because we want that as soon as. I don't know why they keep making us wait for that damn node. They should just give us it. Just let us have it early on in the season, in my eyes. I know the season's long, but so what? We're all in that game now of waiting for stuff anyways. So if people were willing to wait in the past, they're willing to wait nowadays. So stop punishing people, Bungie. Just start giving out the node earlier on in the season. Why punish people just because the season's longer? That's not my problem as a player. Look at this. So this is the rework. Look at this. So a lot of lasers. So that's an instant death, by the way, on GM. You hit 1 layer, you are dead. Look at this. So this is completely, entirely different. So do what I just did. If you want to not die on the GM version, crouch. Then jump over the 2 sections, wait to go, pick a laser. When that laser obviously disappears, run through it. But yes, it will be a death, an instant death. If your toe touches that red laser, you are dead. Alright, I think I had a phone call here. That's why my character stopped. So what's this section like? Because this was the first true room of the old inverted spire section. So we're getting generalized here, I think, because I'm AFK at the minute. So yeah, this first room had a combination again of a Cabal Ultraverse and Vex, which, like I mentioned just before, when there's two enemy races, you have an advantage as a PvE player because the two enemy races will fight each other while you nitpick at them. You pick at them with long range weapons. That's not the case now, so I guess Bungie's been clever with that and thought, you know what, let's remove Cabal enemies entirely. Well, they haven't. Technically, there's some Cabal enemies, but not many. So this section doesn't look so bad either because there's nowhere where you need to sort of push up so much. So this will also be able to be done from long range. So the first two engagements aren't a problem. Alright, it's not like you're in some small room. It's not like it's glassware, so to speak, on this encounter at least. Difference here though is that the bubbles come up. Now, I see a lot of people with the bubbles, they don't know how the Vex Bubbles work. Anti-barrier weapons will shoot through barriers. Through the bubbles, sorry. But your super will not go through the bubble. So it's in your interest, if you're going to pop a super, break the bubble first by shooting the top of it, then throw your super if you're going to do that. Because not every single weapon that you have on will be barrier, unless you're radiant for whatever reason. Yeah, so your GL shot won't go through if you've got overload GL. So get into the habit of shooting those Vex Bubbles down. Okay, you need to get in the habit of it. Harpy spawn in this section, that could be a problem on Grandmaster variant because they deal a lot of damage. So this aspect of Harpies floating from the air is completely new for Inverted Spire. The Harpies wouldn't come down like that. So there's some surprise kills. I foresee a lot of surprise deaths happening in Inverted Spire as we go through it. It's absolutely crazy what they've done with it. Especially for a player like me who soloed this in D2 beta. So I'm one of the longest serving Inverted Spire players in the world. Literally. As I was playing it from day 0, week 1. Right? I think I may have soloed it day 2, day 3. Whenever the solo server was found out is when I soloed it. Which the solo server was, yes, it was found out literally week 1 of D2 beta. Isn't that crazy? And that we're still using the solo server shenanigans nowadays. Which, by the way, it's not a bannable offence. If it is a bannable offence, then they need to ban so many players. There wouldn't be enough people playing D2 anymore. So it's not a bannable offence to use the solo server strategy to load in things solo. For PC, there is a solo script that I know notable players use on PC. Console, you set your PlayStation date forward. I believe on Xbox there's a strat. I don't know what the Xbox strategy is. There has been an Xbox strategy, but the Xbox player base is so small that people forget. There's not many people play D2 on Xbox. I don't know why that is. There's a lot that play on PlayStation and a lot that plays on Steam, but not so much Xbox. But there is a strat for Xbox. Not putting you down, Xbox players. I'm just saying the player base for Xbox seems really small. So look at this starting section. Notice all those all those hobgoblins will probably be champs. One or two, maybe 4 champs in this section. So now, what they've changed is there's tanks appear. Remember, this is a Vex Battleground, basically. So they made Inverted Spire a Vex Battleground. So on a solo GM, you would definitely pick up this tank. And once this tank explodes, I believe you can go and get back and you can go and get another one. Because there's 3 tanks spawn there. Unless, if you load in solo, only 1 tank loads in when you're on a Grandmaster. I don't know. But if there's 3 tanks at this section, you're probably going to want to use all 3. Because you do... With a Grandmaster, if you can use something other than your weapons, it's always good because you save on ammo for later on shenanigans. So having a tank at this section is really good. However, if there's some barrier champs knocking about in this battlefield, the tank's not going to be able to one-cycle them. I can tell you it won't one-cycle them. And if there's overload champs, then you're going to have to get out of the tank and then start doing all that stuff. So notice as well the freshers. The freshers keep spawning, right? They keep spawning above our head. I know it doesn't seem that way, but they do. And there's the strikes, the Cabal strikes that keep coming on the floor. They will one-shot on GM. Look at the freshes, they keep coming over the top. So you could die very easily at this section without a tank on GM difficulty. Right? Now look at this. Look at this huge change that they made. So they've given it the Vex walls, and you can only enter this way. I haven't tested if there's any glitches and stuff to get round. There might be, but it doesn't matter. You can just go through the front gate. So we've got two houses, left and right. Oh, so there is Cabal enemies. My bad. So there's Cabal enemies at this section right here. Notably, each building will have a barrier champ. That's my prediction. Each building will have a barrier. The Colossus we just killed. So what you need to realise is, with base strikes versus Grandmasters, they change a major combatant to a champ. So if it's a red bar Minotaur, they will be overloads. If it's a red bar Colossus, they will be barrier champs. So look, there'll be two overloads that push us here. Right, so it's going to be crazy inverted Spire. I don't think people realise it's going to hit you like a truck when you find out, oh, inverted Spire is actually a tough Grandmaster now. Which it will be, because you've got to cap these points now. So the next trigger is we've got to cap 3 points. And adds push you whilst trying to defend a capture zone. That Colossus right there will also be a barrier champ. So you're going to have some sort of build for this cap point. Because on Grandmasters, it's very easy to die when you're close and where you're fighting close proximity like that. Obviously, Prismatic Titan's going to excel. Obviously, Prismatic Warlock's going to excel. Any Devour builds, Restoration build is going to excel here. Obviously, Hunter with Stylus Executioner shenanigans where you can go in Viz, maybe punch, dodge, whatever it might be. You know, there's a way to do it on all classes. Remember this, there always is. No matter what Grandmaster Bungie ever makes, there's always a way to do it on all classes. There always has been. There's never been a case where, oh, we can't do it on this class. There's always a case where one class is better than others. That always happens. There's always a variable class for the Grandmaster, and that cycles between what Grandmaster that you're actually up against. But yeah, I mean, like I say, you have to cap these points. No freshers here though, which is good. So this section I would say will be difficult on the Grandmaster section. We also get 2 Hydras, Ultras. Whether there'll be a champ on this plate, probably. You know, they maybe have an overload or 2 at this section just to chase you while you try and defeat the Ultra Hydras. So that's probably going to be a thing. And the stepping stones this time. There never used to be stepping stones. It used to be the rings. So you go through a ring and then you would, you know, fly all the way up. So I see a kill zone here. I definitely think it's gonna be a kill zone. So the kill zone is that there'll be an overload there, whilst these red missiles track you. So that's gonna be a kill zone where if you're not on point and you don't kill your if you don't kill the red attackers in time, then the overload, right, that will definitely spawn there, will kill you whilst you try and shoot them. So that'll be the combat difficulty of that bit. So that's going to be a kill zone. So now with the progress section, with the mine, they made it so that you couldn't really stand anywhere in the past, but there was an exploit where you could stand round the back. They must have seen people do that because now they've reworked it so that you can stand round the back. This will be very dangerous on a GM because there'll be a lot of enemies surrounding you and there's supplicants that are spawning. So the supplicants are going to provide a lot of difficulty. Bear in mind, obviously, there's going to be overloads as well. I know that we've got Overload GL, which will make it easier in that respect. But you're going to have your wits about you on the download progress section. Definitely. But you can stand round the back, which you're going to see here, and there is ammo crates because it's classed as a battleground, right? When there's ammo crates like that, it's more than likely classed as a battleground because that's what they do with these battlegrounds, is that they up the enemy density more than a general GM, but in return they'll give you ammo, right? So that's another ammo crate. I'm not using heavy, by the way, because I'm literally just going through the spawns and just checking, you know, what spawns when. Right, we're not looking to do this quickly. We're actually looking to do detective work, and find out what's going on with the rework of Inverted Spire. I'll be interested to see what's going to happen with the drill section, because the drill section was always kind of difficult, especially with the champs. So when you'd have the champs on the cliff, and then you had to sort of try and deal with the champs while dealing with the drill. Especially barriers were misbehaving, especially the Vex ones. There's been different iterations of Inverted Spire over the years. There's been different formulas over the years. The Cabal rotation with the Vex, like at all points throughout the GM, and then there was a Vex only rotation. Then there was a Cabal only rotation. So there's been at least 4 to... This will be a wipe, by the way. On GM, I would have died there. More than likely would have died to those explosions. And that as well. So yeah, it would be kind of difficult, this section, definitely. It wouldn't be no walk in the park, and it's quite long, because once you've downloaded Progress, you get the Vex Bubbles, and I believe there's a Vex Ultra to kill as well, which would... So the question is, how many champs is going to be in this section? Have a guess. I think there's going to be at least 4 to 5, and they'll all be overloads. They could end up upping the amount of overloads you get in this section and surprise us and just spam you with overloads, like they did with Tormentors in Onslaught. Who knows, they could do that. They might just, you know, throw a curveball and do not just the general, you know, 2 or 3 overloads, maybe more than that at that section. We don't know. Until the GM mode comes out, we don't truly know. It's all speculation at this point, but once the GM comes out, I'll have a good idea of how it works roughly. And this is without even running the GM. It'll be a good educated guess, because obviously that's what we're doing here. We're doing our detective work to find out, you know, what's this going to be like for GM. So they've added lasers at this section, which generally there would be a champ here. On the old rotation, there's always a champ there, so there will be a champ. Probably more than likely barrier hobgoblins. That's what will be there. Probably, I would estimate 1 or 2. There's a crate there as well. So you're going to be able to spam quite a good amount of heavy on inverted. So now we're coming up to the drill section that I was on about. So let's see what changes they made there. This is another kill zone. If we don't get those explosives in time, you're more than likely going to wipe to that. That will be a wipe. More than likely. So that's going to have to be something that you're going to have to pay attention to. Added lasers to this section. There'll be 2 overloads here, because there's 2 orange bar minotaurs. They will transform into overloads when GM begins. So this is what they've changed with the drill. They've added tons of cyclopses. Now on this edition, it's not too much of a problem because there's nothing else up, but I imagine there's going to be champs sprinkled in this. Maybe Rivens. Who knows? They might put a Riven or 2 on it, making it quite difficult to fight, because obviously the drill will one-shot. What you're going to understand about the drill is it works exactly the same as how it used to be. There's 3 levels. On the highest level, this one, the drill can't hit you. And the floor before this, it can't hit you so much. It's only the bottom floor, so never go to the bottom floor. The bottom side of this cliff, don't go to it. It's as simple as that. You would never need to go there unless you know exactly what you're doing and you're trying to grab a brick. But in that case, you probably have a shoot-to-loot scout rifle on to pick up that ammo anyways, probably. If ammo was a problem. So, what have they changed with the final boss? Well, I'm excited to see, because it's one of the OG boss fights, as I say, from Destiny 2 beta. So let's see what they've done with it. Oh, they've added a banner, so you can actually banner up at the boss fight. That's actually huge. You know, imagine spam. So what I've just said about, you know, looking for ammo, you won't need to because there's a banner here. So that's easy. So let's see what they've done with the boss fight. By the looks of it, I thought they would have added lasers. They may still add lasers on GM mode. We don't know that. But I was expecting to see a lot of lasers around the map, but there isn't. So this looks relatively the same. It's whether there's champs here, because on the old rotation there was there wasn't champs, was there? There wasn't any champs on the over GM at the boss fight, right? So I'm wondering if there's going to be this time. So I'm just checking what what ad spawns when. So at 5% he spawns some ads, and I believe at 10 to 15 he spawns. So this is the same as what it always was with the harpy spawn. It's exact same spawn. So this wouldn't be too bad because you can melt him. This boss is squishy, and it doesn't look like they've upped his HP. I don't know that for 100% because we need to play it on the right difficulty. But it looks like he's squishy. It looks like you'll be able to one cycle him and go to plate 2, no problem. Plate 2 looks to be the issue because there's 4 hobgoblins. Now I reckon there's probably going to be 4 barrier champs on this plate. If there is, it'll be a nightmare. If this plate, because this plate changes things, the boss does heat on the ground, knocks you up. There's not many places to stand. There is some pillars to stand behind and hide, but if there's 4 barriers there, it's going to be a nightmare. If there's 2, and maybe 2 hobgoblins, not as bad, but you're going to have your wits about you if there is barriers on this floor. If they want to make Inverted Spire really hard at the boss fight, they need to put barrier champs on plate 2. And they need to have overloads on the final phase. If they really, really want to up its difficulty, to maybe not light blade status, but somewhere close to it, they need to include champs at the boss. It would be more like a tree of probabilities, because if anyone remember a tree of probabilities, the GM on that was incredible. One of the toughest solo GMs ever. So yeah, it's going to be something like that if there's champs at the boss. Again, I don't know if there is or not. So yeah, the ad spawns look very similar there to what it was in the past. Obviously this is a place to stand. You don't want to stand on the floor because that'll just knock you up. So I do think this is an indicator of there being an overload. There's an orange bar Minotaur there. He will be overload, right? So that means you want to try and melt down that overload before boss is de-shielded. Because you see there, he was shielded, then he takes it off, and then you get an ad spawn. So imagine that little bit there. You're going to want to melt down the overload as quickly as possible, then do damage. So again, we're just going to take it slow. What ad spawns? So we're getting some fanatics spawning. They spawn right away, just after boss is de-shielded. And there's various places to stand for Inverted Spire. It depends on the cycle, right, of the boss. Now, he used to have 2 different rotations. He could go anti-clockwise or clockwise. And if you melted him down, it would interrupt his cycles. It's actually kind of cool how Inverted Spire works. But if you're somebody that ends up struggling with this GM when it comes out, take his HP bit by bit because the spawns per phase. Now, this will be a problem on GM as well. The floating harpies, they'll do damage from you from the sky there, and you'll be caught off guard by that. So you don't want to be wandering around too much without cover. Because if it is arc fret, which I don't know if this GM is going to be arc fret or not, but if it is, which I think it is, because the boss does arc, he melts. He melts fast on higher difficulties. I know this from past experience with this as a GM. So what we want to find out, here's another ad spawn, this time Vex Bubbles. So there's Vex Bubbles on this phase. This phase would be quite difficult. We'd definitely have a problem because the boss now also has an attack where he blinds you. On this phase, he'll just, that's the attack right there. He blinds you and your screen just goes white. That would be a potential wipe on GM difficulty. So I'm just testing for future. What value does his head break off? So it's at the P. So his head will break off at P. So now I just wanted to check, is there any Minotaurs spawning and stuff like that? Because imagine an overload spawning on this final phase. The boss's head is enraged. Sorry, his head's took off, so he's enraged. So imagine if there's an overload spawn. We don't know. There could be, there might not be. I kind of hope there isn't for this particular phase, I suppose. I think it might be a little bit unfair. Because literally you have fanatics surrounding you, then the boss will push. On this difficulty, he's not pushing because his AI is reduced because it's the standard version. So I'm just checking, is there any more spawns? Doesn't look like there is. So we'll just clean him up. So yeah, Inverted Spire is probably going to be a mega GM that's going to be something rather than nothing. That was video on this. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.